So I see a couple of folks in the queue, and I believe Nile is calling from. Nile, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful. How about yourself this evening?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks so much for taking time out. I know we had to sync up our schedules, but I want to thank you for making yourself available during the evening. You could be doing anything else, but you're actually here remotely on the phone joining Late Night Parents. So we definitely appreciate you for taking this time out.
Well, I know where all the great people are hanging out, so I wanted to be with you.
Wonderful. We'll get into it really quick now because I know your time is money, and we're kind of talking about money tonight. We're talking about Samsung Pay versus Apple Pay. I mean, you have so many people. We're both in the technology field, or we have that expertise. But give me a breakdown. Like when someone says or they read Samsung Pay versus Apple Pay, how do you start to explain what that means to someone that's has no idea about? Well, they might have a computer, but they might have an iPhone, but they can't tie the two together.
Well, I have to say that whether you're using Apple Pay or Samsung Pay, or maybe even Android Pay, the bottom line is they make it very, very easy for you to make this stuff work. And while I'll talk about, as we compare Apple and Samsung, I'll talk about some security differences. But talking about those differences, one thing that I have to say almost as a baseline is that whether you use Apple or Samsung Pay, either way you're going to be more secure than you are carrying a credit card around in your wallet.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. You lose your wallet, and, man, those credit cards are fair game. People pick them up, and you use the credit cards for a lot of things, or even debit cards. People don't look at them. Very, very seldom. I used to put on the back of my card all the time, check ID. I wouldn't sign the card. And nobody had ever checked the ID. In fact, when somebody did, I was so shocked that I almost fell over. So, people don't look at the credit card. They just run it through, and if it processes, great, next. They're not looking at that. But when you're using either the Apple or Samsung Pay, all of that is encrypted and secured on the phone. Now, I know, because you're technology savvy here, so you're very tech savvy, you've heard that Samsung was hacked with their Samsung Pay recently, I'm sure.
Correct.
And that hack happened to be, and this is how big this stuff is getting, they weren't trying to break into, nor did they get to any of the secured credit card or customer information records at all. What they were trying to do was they were trying to get to the technology that allowed Samsung to be able to do what they're doing, which is allowing Samsung to be used in more stores than Apple, which is shocking to everybody at the moment. But that's what they were after, interestingly enough. So their security worked and locked down all the good stuff, and the hackers were after their technology, not the credit card numbers.
Oh my goodness!
It does tell you how big it's getting, doesn't it?
It really, really does. I mean, I'm gonna share something with you, and it's a little bit off base, but I want you to just hang with me for a second.
Sure.
So I'm a New Yorker. I spent the previous week in San Francisco, and I was making just minor purchases. Hey, I had to go get my family some souvenirs, or I had to go do whatever, and maybe a $80 purchase here, $90 purchase there. I mean, it's so much that on my phone itself, I got a text message. Are you making these purchases? An automated prompt. Click yes, reply yes, or reply no, because the next purchase I would have made, it would have declined. So it's very sophisticated because there's all different types of bad guys that are out there now, and I don't need to tell you that. So the novice person hears Apple, Android, or Samsung Pay, and they're like, okay, this is another layer of me doing what? And the commercials look kind of cool when you can, take your device and tap it and keep moving. I want you to real briefly tell us, give us the positives to a virtual pay and or negatives.
Well, the positives are that your credit card number is never exposed. Now, I'm going to contradict myself when I talk about Samsung Pay in a minute. But with Apple Pay, your credit card is never exposed. They generate a brand new unique number every payment. So if somebody's sophisticated enough, like they were with the Target hack that everybody's heard about, and a few others, not just Target, but that they got into the point of sale system, the physical system where you're checking out of, and they could get the numbers, they could only get the number for that transaction. So they couldn't do anything else with it. Sort of a neat thing. But again, our wallets are real easy to lose. And our credit cards, even if we don't lose our wallet, are really easy to duplicate. As a matter of fact, I don't know how many of your listeners have heard where a waiter in a restaurant, for example, or a waitress takes your credit card and they go to process it, and they swipe it in a swiper that they have on their person. And that allows them to get all the information to be able to duplicate your credit card number. So they virtually have your credit card. They might not have all of the data that goes with it, but hey, they are going to be able to process your credit card in a number of places. When we're looking at losing our phone, well, not only are they going to have to know your phone, they're probably going to have to know the app password. I shouldn't say probably, they are. Or they're going to have to be able to do some sort of authentication. Apple uses the biometrics, the thumbprint. Samsung's using passwords. Android Pay is using passwords. But they're asking for some other level of information to be able to process it, even in the event you lose your phone. So you lose your phone and your credit cards are on your phone in one of these pay systems, they're not exposed, as opposed to what you're getting in your wallet. You talk about the negatives. Well, it's tied to your smartphone, and we know that that's battery dependent. So now you have to have your battery charged to be able to check out. If your battery goes dead, guess what? You're not checking out. And you have to remember those passwords or pins if you use them. Obviously, if you're using the biometrics and your thumbprint, you don't. But those are the negatives. And when you compare the positives to the negatives, in this case, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives.
That is true. That is true. When I say, and this is another, since you are well versed, I've got to come at you and say, when I say two-form authentication, what does that mean to you?
What that means is whenever you go to verify that you are the user, it's not going to stop at just one validation. It's going to ask for at least two. So let's talk about Apple Pay, for example. One is there is security attached to your phone that tells you what device the system is talking to. The second form of security they use, or the second factor there, is your biometric thumbprint. So that means that there's two levels of authentication to authenticate that not only is this off of the proper device and I could authenticate that device through the carrier network, but now I'm validating that your thumbprint is there and I've got the indication that that's authenticated as well. So that's sort of the two-factor authentication.
Gotcha. And Nile, thank you so much for answering that question, because that was from one of our listeners had sent in a direct message asking about two-factor. They call it two-form of authentication, but it's two-factor authentication. Tell me about
it's two-factor.
Tell me this much: how many companies are using this feature? Android Pay or Samsung Pay or Apple Pay?
Well, this is where it gets exciting. If we talk about Apple Pay, over 500 banks are supporting it in the U.S., 13 in the U.K., stores over 700,000. Now, this is where the contrast really comes in. Samsung's only got 3 banks on board, but they use something that is the technology that the hackers are trying to steal called MST verification. And what that is magnetic strip technology. Well, you don't have a magnetic strip attached to the phone, but what the phone does is it generates the electronic field, and that couples with the reader head that normally reads that magnetic strip in the credit card terminal. And it looks though the credit card is actually being swiped, but it isn't. It's sending out electronic code to that device to let it know that here's the credit card information. And what that's doing is it's allowing Samsung to be processed literally everywhere that magnetic strip readers are available. Now, we just went to this chip technology on our cards right now.
Yes.
And so a lot of people are changing to that, and if they only want the chip technology, you're out of luck. But many, in fact, most are still using the magnetic strip readers as well.
That is so true, and I got to tell you, because I've even tripped myself up, depending on the store that I'm in. Some stores, they're still using the card swipe, the magnetic swipe, and then I'm at Target, and I'm trying to use the swipe, and the person is looking at me like, hey, bozo, you have one of the newer cards. Just insert the card. Insert the card, and you're good to go. Very good, very good. So I guess two final questions. One is, will our physical wallets ever be replaced forever?
We're heading that direction very rapidly. And as far as the Big Brother stuff goes, that bothers me. I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but a lot of banks are not wanting to deal with cash anymore. And you start to see that move to electronic or cyber transactions. DMV is wanting to issue things here. You go to the airlines, what do? You check in with the e-ticket on your phone. Movie tickets now are going that way. Loyalty cards. Even banks are doing deposits by phone now. So we're really moving to this mobile technology now. How long is it going to be before our wallets go away? Well, I think we've probably got a ways to go, but the thing that surprised me is how fast we're going that direction. And it could conceivably be in the next 10 to 15 years, there's not going to be anything to carry in your wallet. You're not going to carry the pictures anymore. You're not going to carry cash. You're not going to carry credit cards, probably not your driver's license, because it's not secure enough. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, but it's surprising how fast we're going there.
Now I'll jump in here and say, I checked in my JetBlue flight before I even left home. I checked in. I had my boarding pass on my phone, and you're totally correct. You're totally correct. We've been doing it for the last 3 to 4 years, where you can deposit a check without physically going to a bank. So the technology, I think. Are we at the point we just have to catch up to the technology?
Well, we're getting to the point, whether we want to catch up or not, it's being thrust upon us. Obviously, the people that we do business with, it's cheaper for them to go pay, which is where they're trying to go. They don't want to issue tickets. And the same thing's happening with things like library cards, driver's licenses, and all of that. We're heading that direction quickly. Like I said, it's a bit scary, but at some point in time, it's all going to be mobile technology, and if you don't have it, they're not going to have a way to check you in, or it will take you substantially longer. And that check-in's not just at the airports, but it's whether you're doing banking or paying your bills, or somebody's checking your driver's license for a reason, or whatever it may be. We're certainly going that direction.
No, you're correct, and I can remember from for many, many years, maybe as much as 10 years with Easy Pass or the Sun Pass. And you have 10 different islands that you can go through for the mobile way to do it, and then they'll have maybe one or two for the cash. So it's been there. So I guess my last question would be Samsung Pay or Apple Pay. If it was up to you, which technology? It seems hands down the Apple Pay is more accessible and has been accepted, but for the end user, which one is easier?
Well, the ease of use is about the same for both of them. And right now, Samsung is you're able to use your Samsung Pay almost everywhere. Your Apple Pay, hey, it's only about 700,000 to 800,000 locations only. So, the bottom line is I like the security in the Apple Pay much better. However, Samsung Pay has a wider base today, and I say today because those chip cards are becoming more popular, and there's many locations that don't want the magnetic strip cards anymore, because it turns out that if they've got the chip and your card is chip-based, but they're reading the magnetic strip, the merchant takes total responsibility or liability, better yet, for the transaction. So a lot of merchants may probably within the next 6 months to a year no longer take the magnetic strip. If you don't have the chip card, they're not going to want your credit card.
Excellent. Hey, now, I know you're about to get on out of here, but I want you to share some information about your companies and the things that you professionally do. And also, after you do that, tell us the best way to get in contact with you via social media.
Well, as part of my day job, if you will, I'm a data analyst, which means I look at a lot of data and try to figure out what the connection points are and things like that. But I'm well-versed in social media. I'm all over social media. I recommend people that want to touch base with me go to LinkedInFocus.com. It's a great place where I help people leverage the power of LinkedIn for their personal or professional advancement. But likewise, if they want to reach out on social media, they could get me at N as in Nile, L as in Larry, Nickel, just like the coin, Nickel, on Twitter, so at NLNickel. They could find me all over the place. As a matter of fact, I bet if they get at Nile Nickel on Twitter, they're going to find me too.
Now we want to give you a round of applause. And thank you once again for taking the time out to join us tonight. I want to thank the PR team that worked with us that allowed us to connect, the good folks at Ascot. And this is the first time, and this definitely won't be the last time that we want you to visit the show. So I wanted to say thank you once again.
Well, Ted, it's always great to be with you, and I really do appreciate the time and enjoy the show a lot. You've got great stuff going on, so I know that it's a pleasure to be here, and I know that it's going to be good stuff.
Thanks again, Niall.
Bye-bye.
And that was Niall Nickel, who is security expert, LinkedIn expert, social media expert, president and CEO of Balance Engines, Small Change, Revenue Assurance Holdings. They're all LLCs. Subject matter expert in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn Focus. I'm not really sure, about that, but I will be looking into it. And an authority on how to utilize LinkedIn to build your brand, your business,